Hi, I'm Bob Summerwill. Most of my career was actually in video games. I worked for EA for many, many years on EA Sports titles. Got involved with blockchain first in 2014, met Metallic in 2014. I got really heavily involved in 2015. Actually seeing, could I get an Ethereum client to run on my smartwatch? That was my first little thing I tried. So I was working on ARM Linux cross builds for resource-constrained devices. So mobile, wearables, Raspberry Pis, all sorts. Anyway, I managed to find myself working for the Ethereum Foundation shortly afterwards. That was a bit of a sort of a knockout success. I was working on the C++ client team. One of the things that I did there actually was spent a long time making homebrew support for building the Solidity compiler, which has obviously got lost in the history of time. That used to take 24 hours to build it, amazingly, because you had all of the C++ components together, the runtime, the Solidity compiler, and the GUI apps. The GUI apps used Qt and Chromium, so you had to do a full Chromium build and a Qt build with custom settings to build the set of stuff to make the compiler. It's amazing. Anyway, a thing I did while I was there as well is I was working on seeing if we could get the C++ client relicensed as Apache 2, so it could have been contributed into Hyperledger. So we could have had an Ethereum client in Hyperledger back there in 2016. That got blocked by parity. If that had gone through, the EA probably wouldn't have happened because we'd have actually just done the enterprise work within Hyperledger. Anyway, what we did have is there were a large number of companies that were doing stuff on Ethereum already anyway, and we ended up sort of gathering all of those together. And that became the genesis of the EA. And the real sort of goal of the EA was really the belief that there was no reason why suitably modular Ethereum code bases would not be able to serve all of these public and private, permissioned and permissionless use cases. That really, if you look at what you have, say, on the Goerli testnet, you know, that is a proof of authority, public permissioned testnet, which is really no different than anything that you would have with a consortium enterprise scenario. You know, really, whether you're running an F-hash proof of work, or a proof of authority, or a proof of stake, or a DPoS, you know, or a Tendermint, or a PBFT, or a Raft, or any of these, you know, that's just really a configuration setting. These are just sort of parameters. Similarly, on privacy features, you know, all of these are just sort of modes, really. There's no reason why any of these should not be done as just modes. If you look at parity, for example, you know, parity supported both Ethereum and Ethereum Classic from the start. Myself, in my current role at the ECC Cooperative, we just recently funded ChainSafe to do work on Hyperledger Besu to add ETC support, and it took about 3 or 4 weeks. It was very easy. We're maintaining it. There you go. Similarly, for any of these other modes, really, like the actual technical work to add any of these features is really very small. The hard part, as we see 4 years after I started doing that licensing, is actually human consensus. It's significantly harder than technical consensus. An example being BFT algorithms. We're seemingly still pissing around trying to come to a decision on what kind of BFT algorithm that we're going to have within the EA. So the consequence of that is that we still do not have a single testnet in which a heterogeneous set of enterprise clients can run. So because we don't have a testnet, we can't get to conformance testing. So 3 years down the line from launching the EA, we're still just writing words on paper, and we don't actually have the clients actually really talking to each other. We've got GitHub, yes, but it's still private behind a paywall. However, all of these are not big problems, and I have hope that we can solve them. I mean, I guess the larger view of seeing this stuff is, to me, it was never F that was the important thing. The thing that was the important thing was Ethereum, the technology. And in the broader sense, blockchain, the technology, or set of technology families, that you really have this sort of narrowing set or widening set of things where, a public permissionless blockchain with a cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin being the first instance of that, that's your inner core of blockchains. And then, you have DLTs, and you have distributed databases, and in general you have consensus systems as a whole. Those systems with smart contracts, obviously you've got more functionality there, simpler ones where you've just got value transfers. In the broader sense, you really have cryptographic proofs. So talking about some of the things there with Zeth, or really a thing which is fantastic is off-chain compute. Off-chain compute I think is marvelous. If you really look at the range of things which are happening in public Ethereum around L2 technologies, L2 scaling or privacy as well, projects, like Scale Network, Matic, you've got various optimistic roll-ups. I mean, all of these really, to my mind, they're just other flavors of these kind of networks. Really sort of saying there is no one size fits all. We're exploring the state space of different possibilities that you have in these, and they're all just different engineering trade-offs. There's no good or bad. We're not going to have a single chain to rule them all. That would be as ludicrous as when the relational database was invented in the 1970s, saying, brilliant, let's have a world database. Would you like to add some rows to the database? Come to me, I'm the DBA of the world, That does not scale. Doesn't matter what you put behind it, however many fancy sharding things you want, it ain't gonna scale, that doesn't work. You have a straight trade-off there between throughput and latency, and the way that you're gonna scale, obviously, is by having multiple things in parallel and, getting to eventual consistency. So you're going to have layers of harder things at the bottom and softer things at the top. If you think of it just in terms of value transfers and money, yes, gold is the best money. Do we carry bars of gold around with us? No, we do not. That would be stupid. If I look in my wallet here, is this money? It's not hard money. I think it's money though. If I have a bus pass, if I have a gift token, are those money? Yes, they're money. They're all value. But you have this layering. I mean, that's how you get to any kind of scaling. So we're going to have exactly the same, both on the public side and on the enterprise side. You are going to have these different flavors of things, and they are going to be composed depending on what your use case is, what you're trying to do, what do you need. There is no silver bullet. Many people in this space are too young to know about Fred Brooks in the mythical Man Month. But that these are eternal truths, and it doesn't matter if you don't know about them because you're too young and inexperienced, they're still true. We do not have magical tools that we're created. What you have with blockchain is yes, it is a new tool, and you've got new categories of things that you can do with it. I can't remember who it was. So I think you were saying earlier about the, like 5%, maybe 5% of the solution is blockchain. A quote, a number that I saw from our good friend Colin Platt when he was looking at this perhaps a year ago, he was trying to estimate what's the overhead of running some computation on the Ethereum mainnet versus just on an AWS node, right? I'm going to run some simple logic on-chain versus off-chain. That's perhaps as much as 100 million times more expensive. That's the scale of overhead that you're looking at for coming to global consensus on a provably correct execution of a bit of logic, on an immutable chain. 100 million times more expensive. You better have a damn good reason for doing that, or you are stupid and your business will fail. However, there are some things where that is worth it. If you look at whatever, Swift, banking backbones, various systems are very, very expensive to run, but that's because they're important. The data on them is really important. But it sure as hell is not everything, and it's sure as hell not every little single click that anyone in the world does on anything, any state change on a database. However, what I think we really have with Ethereum is we've really got sort of the de facto standard for smart contract platforms. That's quite evident. That whatever, 90% or more of live sort of smart contracts in the world are on Ethereum or an Ethereum flavor. So the analogy I would draw for people who have a bit of Unix or Linux history is I would say that F is like the System 5 Unix. It's here's the first Unix flavor, and then you get other Unixes starting to appear, and it's like, is that Unix? I don't know if it's Unix or not. That's Solaris. Well, that's a bit bad. And then you get Richard Stallman daring to do GNU. You're horrible. That's not Unix at all. Stop, Richard. It's a terrible thing. But this is how this is how things flow out, and then you get all of the wonder that's come out of Linux, and then on the Apple side, you have all the BSD flavors, and then everything that you've got with macOS and iOS. So I think what we're aiming for on the standard side, and what I would be delighted if we can get to with the EA spec, is really it's something that's like POSIX standard. Is saying all of these things have got a lot of commonality, and if you write things to a fairly standard kind of interface, then yeah, you can run that thing, on Solaris, you can run it, on Unix, you can run it on any of the Linux flavors, and you can run it on Android, and you can run it on a Mac, all of these things. But yeah, they're all a family of related kind of patterns, and I think the thing that's really important is kind of the shape of that pattern, and it's not to enforce uniformity and say there's only going to be one of these. There will be many. We're in this Cambrian explosion of different smart contract platforms, but many of them are Ethereum flavored in some kind of way, and if we can get to some level of commonality, then that does let us build up all of these layers of standard libraries and frameworks, and to get to the same sort of maturity that you have for mobile tech, for web tech, where you really are just sort of putting together components. You file new application, please, and it's like you're building on the shoulders of giants of many years worth of those pieces. The other thing, just one final piece. So to me, success in blockchain is the path to boring. If we can make blockchain as boring as databases, we've won, right? Where having a blockchain specialism is, that's so dull. That's nothing special. Of course, everyone can do a bit of blockchain. If you have a development practice, in the same way as you can do a bit of mobile, a bit of web, a bit of database, a bit of everything. It's just it'll become part of the full stack pattern. And it's just, what blockchain are you using? I can't even remember. I don't even know. I think that one? Okay, thank you.